today's session. Okay, hello everyone, and thank you once again for joining us today in our webinar. We just wanted to say that last week or a couple of weeks back, our first seminar actually discussed about Union Bank's own transformation and our own digitization and the other products that we have in the bank that we have for our customers and everyone who's out there who want to digitize their own operations. But in this seminar or this webinar for this week, we'd like to focus more on our fintech partners, as well as the CEOs and founders, for them to discuss their own products, how it can benefit everyone out there, especially in times like these, and how we could actually use them in our own operations. But before anything else, we'd also remind everyone that after this webinar, we will have breakout rooms for everyone to ask questions, get to know each other, discuss our problems, and how we can solve them together. We'd also like to tell you that this webinar will be live on Facebook. So in case you want to catch it again, and if you feel that you've missed something, then you can also check it out on Facebook later on. So before anything else, we'd like to welcome Dr. Justo Aboitis Ortiz, the Vice Chairman of Union Bank, for our opening remarks.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to see that we have a great panel of interesting entrepreneurs who have really been game changers here in our small community. I'd like to start really by hoping that for most people that listen, that this sudden finding of ourselves in circumstances that are difficult on account of this pandemic does not result in our desire to digitize as simply a business continuity plan or a resiliency plan. Although that clearly is very important, and we've had some shortcomings as a whole society in being ready for what we're experiencing today. So clearly, we need to make more investments in resiliency. But I think what's more important is to think about this as longevity and prosperity as we move towards the frontiers of the future and begin to embrace the fourth industrial age with all its uncertainties. We don't have a crystal ball, so we can't predict the future unless, like Steve Jobs, you create it. But what we can do is change the way we think and change the way we do things. And so how should we think differently? Well, clearly, we need to do more design thinking. We need to do more first principles thinking as we engage our customers and ecosystems. And we need to do more systems thinking. And I think that's very opportune because systems thinking situates us all in an ecosystem where we're part of a community, either a supplier to or a supplyee, or a channel of distribution, etc. And I think it becomes important to appreciate that going forward, because collaboration, the Ubuntu spirit, even symbiotic convergence of competitors becomes something that we need to be open-minded to. And how do we do things differently? Well, the big word is agile. And I think more and more organizations will focus on being agile. But we also need to be cognizant, and I think from the panelists today, one of the mega trends that I see coming forward in the future is the deconstruction of the firm. And this is particularly relevant to SMEs because we have all grown up thinking that a integrated organization, top to bottom, makes us lower our transaction costs. But today, and you have among your panelists people that do tax uh, applications, ERP applications, HR applications, and even collection and disbursement and payments applications, both digital and cash as we evolve. And the message to SMEs is you don't need to do it all yourself. And I think that that's what you're going to find out from these panelists, that SMEs can actually become more competitive than large, rigid, command and control corporations by consuming these different applications and platforms that are on offer on a subscription basis for very, very good value. So I'm really looking forward to the conversation that all of you are going to have this afternoon. I'm sure it's going to be productive. I'm sure it will be very insightful, that's for sure. And I hope that it gets you ready, not so much in predicting the future, but being able to embrace the future and all the uncertainty it brings and still prosper and be around as viable businesses delivering value to society, to your stakeholders, to your customers for a very, very long time. So good afternoon to all of you. I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Tito. As always, we welcome your opening remarks. I guess the three things that we want to take away from your discussion for today is that, first of all, it's symbiotic convergence. And I guess for everyone out there, symbiotic convergence is having mutually beneficial things put together. And I think we are seeing that now. The second option, or the second item that we want to bring alive today, is the deconstruction of the firm. So when we say deconstruction of the firm, that means that you could find various efficiencies and things that you could do to improve operations of your business. And as Zhao aptly mentioned, you don't need to do that alone. And the third key takeaway that I really, really like to put an emphasis on is longevity and prosperity. Let's take this situation that we're all in as an example of, being able to prosper, not just in the middle of adversity, but to be able to fix things and do so for the long run. So before anything else, I'd like to introduce our first speaker for today. He is Mr. Steve Landman from Q. He's the CEO and founder. So I'd just like to give a few words about Steve first. Steve has about 31 years of experience in the tech startup space and was actually one of the first few founders of Oracle. Steve has since founded over 17 profitable startups since then. So just a brief background, Q is a cloud-based business management platform. So anyway, let's welcome Steve Landman.
Thank you, Erica. Great to see everyone. And it's really an honor to participate in this event. I'm actually 35 years in technology, and this is my third crisis that I've actually gotten to live through. So the beautiful thing about it is every time we have crisis, we prevail. And I think the most important thing to keep in mind is that the human part of it, even when we're talking about business and technology and fintech, we can't forget about the human centricity of what we talk about. Can we go to the slides? So Q, it means bridge, and it's bridge in Chinese, and we're a digital bridge. We try to bridge banks and SMEs and micro businesses together. And again, I see technology as an enabler. It's really the human beings and ourselves that actually have to do the actual work, but technology makes our job much easier. Next slide, please. So I built a pretty decent team, a lot of years of experience. Juni Pama, CEO of Q in Philippines. He's a telco industry guru. He's been around a long time. My board of advisors, our team. So I got a lot of help from my friends at Oracle to help build Q and Apple and Google and other places. what Q is a business management platform. And what we really want to do is streamline operations, make communication between client, vendor, government much easier for the SMEs. We want to automate the processes in the back end so that SMEs can actually just enter a little bit of data, and in the back end, all the work is being done for them. Next slide, please. And so we have some really amazing partners that like Asian Development Bank, the IFC, GIZ, USAID, who support us throughout the region. We're in 6 countries, and without the support of these global partners, we couldn't do what we do. Next slide, please. But what's more applicable is our partners in the Philippines, like Union Bank. We've been partners with Union Bank for quite a long time, and we're very grateful for that partnership. But we have great clients like Pilmico and Tao Group and Big Sky, and even small bakeries and like Crumb Cakes and others. Please, next slide. So what we want to do is be a bridge that connects the MSME, the SMEs to the Union Bank, and even trade finance. So we do some large projects with the IFC and Asian Development Bank. So those SMEs in the Philippines can actually have the opportunity to export globally. Next slide, please. So I think, again, crisis is a really interesting time. It's a time that we can actually look at our processes, our business strategies, how we're interacting with our employees. And when I built Q, I really wanted to focus on making automation, but really making the people the center of it, make it easy to use, configurable, friendly, social media-like. So how can we use technology that's disruptive, but not disrupting our lives and the way we work and live our lives? So we have a suite of products from the BMP, which is like ERP, but a fraction of the cost of someone like SAP or Oracle or NetSuite. We provide credit scoring so that loans are easy for SMEs, eKYC. So we really try to make the time you onboard the Q, the loan origination, and eventually be able to access finance from organizations like Union Bank. Next slide, please. So we have everything. The way it was designed is you only need to pay for what you need. If you need CRM or sales or accounting, you can just use those modules. Or you can use a whole suite of products that include manufacturing, HR, fleet management, whatever you may need. But more importantly, we've localized for the Philippines and every other country. So you enter data, we're already calculating tax. We're already doing payroll calculations and distributions and reports. So all of that back end work that normally you would have to do in an accounting department or some other department within an organization, we've automated those processes much more differently than other organizations like SAP or Oracle. Next slide, please. So it's cloud-based. We sit at Amazon.com, or I'm sorry, AWS, and you just enter data and the backend does all the work for you. It's actually that simple. Onboarding can be done in a few hours, or large enterprises can be done in a week or 2 weeks. Next slide, please. It's almost like building blocks, like Lego. So you can basically pick and choose which Lego you want to stack on top of each other and use those features and functionality. One of the debates in technology for a long time has been, do we build workflow and do we build technology around workflow? But in our case, we let you build your workflow around our technology. Next slide, please. Different modules like sales and CRM, purchasing, inventory, accounting, point of sale, manufacturing are just a few. And it's a very low cost. Our base package is actually only 2,400 pesos a month for 5 users. So you can actually use a lot of features and functionality for a very low price. Next slide, please. And it even extends to mobile applications. This is actually old UI, UX, but the new one is actually much better, much usable, more usable, but it integrates directly with the backend that's on the online version on native app. Next slide, please. And then ultimately we collect the data. If you want to borrow money, we can collect the data and we can actually credit score you in like 7 to 10 seconds and qualify for loans at our partner financial institutions like Union Bank. Next slide, please. Go to the next slide. It's okay. I don't have much time. Go to the next slide. Also, again, as we're trying to, okay, that's good actually. So we've also released, because of the, go back slide, please. Okay, thank you. Because of the back one slide, please. because of the pandemic, actually, we were really fast to respond, and we actually deployed and developed and launched work from home a few weeks ago. We actually launched in the Philippines, and the reception across the region's been amazing. So we've integrated Zoom and other video conferencing and Slack-like communication tools, a learning management system. What we found is we use the same system internally, and we actually are much more efficient and productive. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. And the learning management system, you can actually run a whole university online or offline, from course material, payroll, the whole thing. Next slide, please. I don't have much time. Next slide. Oh, next slide. And benefits. So cost savings, speed of deployment. Okay. Speed of deployment, total cost of ownership is really low, implementation is fast, and Pilmico is a great case study. I think I'm done with my 5 minutes. So again, focus on the humans when we're talking about digital transformation and transforming your enterprise. And we're here to help. We have a big team in the Philippines. So thank you for allowing me to participate.
Whew. Thank you for that, Steve. I think for all of our viewers out here today, we just like to remind everyone, Q is a cloud-based business enterprise management platform. So if you guys have specific needs for your businesses, such as focusing more on being more efficient in sales and doing so in inventory and accounting, then Q is there as a possible solution for your business. Now, we'd like to emphasize as well that Q is there for giving you something that's not necessarily related with having high costs, but at the same time, it gives you very quick deployment. Isn't that correct, Steve? Like, you can deploy this specific platform in as fast as how many days would you say?
Yeah, like a normal size SME, like 2 to 3 days, very quickly. It's painless.
Okay, that is quite quick nowadays, and we need that, especially now when businesses are trying to thrive and strive. So 2 to 3 days and being to put out things that quick is very important. Now, one of the things that you mentioned earlier was very valuable, I think. It's disrupting the business without being disruptive, right? And I think that's a theme that we should all be reminded of, that using on services from other companies that may or may not be necessarily competitors, but can help become more efficient for our own businesses. Anyway, our next speaker for today, I would like to introduce Mr. Patrick Gentry from Sprout. So just a quick background on Patrick. He has 8 years worth of work experience in Silicon Valley. He came to the Philippines in around 2008 with a backpack and hasn't left since. He is also the recipient of the Rice Bowl Award for Founder of the Year in 2017. So on what Sprout is an HR process solutions provider that helps companies become more efficient with their HR processes and their payroll. So let's welcome Mr. Patrick Gentry from Sprout.
Thank you. Thanks, Union Bank. Thanks for having me. So yeah, so Sprout has been kind of in the middle of everything from the start of ECQ, just because of the nature of business that we have, which I'll discuss in a few minutes. So I think we can get started on this. Next slide. So I just wanted to start off with a little joke that's very applicable to the Philippines. There have been a ton of companies who have talked to us in the last couple of months about how they had a digital transformation strategy that was, 2 or 3 years long, and it got compressed to 2 or 3 weeks in the last couple of weeks of March. So yeah, it's been a huge disruption. Next slide. And so actually early on during the ECQ, Sprout ran a few surveys through our system. So we have close to 100,000 users on our platform. So when we run a survey, we get over 10,000 responses every time we do one of these surveys, and we've done several around work from home and the transition. And I wanted to highlight a few of the results of those surveys here. By the way, anybody who wants a copy of one of those surveys, please, you can email info@sprout.ph and you can get your own copy of these surveys that we did. So we found very early in quarantine, we had 72% of our clients were full work from home. And since then, that number has gone up. And a few other findings I'll run through here. Next slide. So overall, the results were actually very encouraging. So 77%, 73% of employees felt like they were actually well equipped to work from home. Most respondents, three-quarters of respondents felt like they had the right tools for high quality collaboration with their colleagues. And they were able to concentrate and remain productive. You know, three-quarters said they were extremely productive when working from home. So it was very interesting to see this. Again, we had 12 to 15,000 responses to each one of these surveys we did, and by and large, employees felt empowered and productive working from home. So I would say companies can be satisfied they've done a good transition to work from home. And that's actually been reflected in a lot of the conversations I've had with companies. Most companies I talk to plan to extend work from home for at least a portion of the workforce beyond the ECQ. So it's very, very interesting. Next slide. One of the most surprising findings of our survey was that the Gen Z respondents were actually the least productive, were actually the least able to concentrate when working from home. So you would think that maybe Gen X or millennial would be the least able to concentrate, because most of us that are a little bit older, like I'm a borderline millennial, and I have 3 kids, and so it can be very distracting. And you would think that that group would be more distracted, but actually it's the young folks who are very having trouble working from home. Next slide. Now, in terms of the challenges that we uncovered, so you can see here I'm showing the number one, the top challenges that we found from our respondents. Of course, number one is the internet connectivity. So a lot of folks struggle with poor internet connection. Another big one was having laptops, and then finally being able to remote access into work systems. A lot of companies, they have things like VPN, remote access protocols, and a lot of employees have struggled with that. But by and large, the roadblocks for working from home were fairly minimal. You can see here that that most things were quite minor other than the internet issue. Next. Now, the important thing, and this is what this talk today is about, is having the right tools to work from home. And so, whether it's Sprout or another system, you need a very robust HR and payroll system to do work from home. And it's about making employees feel like they're still connected with the company. One of the biggest challenges that companies have talked to us about is keeping employees engaged and keeping track of employees and what they're doing, and how connected they are to the organization. And having a tool like Sprout on the HR side is incredibly important for that. Next slide. We'll skip through this slide. This talks about basically having a remote check-in for employees to check in via an app, things like that, which Sprout has. But on the payroll side, I just want to jump into payroll. Again, being able to see when their payslip is coming in, view their payslip online, have access to instantaneous cash. So we have this product called InstaCash, where employees in a matter of less than 5 minutes can borrow a loan against their salary. It's automatically deducted through payroll. So there's no admin work from the company, no cost to the company, to provide this benefit to employees. And then employees get to have access to finances when they need it, which is incredibly important. We've seen a huge uptick in usage of InstaCash through ECQ, and it's just employees having a little extra cash, as a cushion. Next. So, and then finally, tying it all together, you have a nice tool like Sprout Insight that provides analytics to businesses. Right now, one of the biggest things that we get from businesses is having visibility of their data while they're on work from home. Everything is more distributed, and just having good visibility on the organization becomes more difficult. So having a very robust analytics strategy and having the right tools for the job is incredibly important during this time. So again, whether it's Sprout or another tool, having an analytics strategy and leveraging that a little bit is important during this time when we have distributed workforces. Next slide. Next slide. So, we focus on automating the tasks that typically get in the way of human interaction. Again, if you look at our survey, most employees feel like they have a good amount of high quality interaction with their peers, and tools like Sprout or technology tools to automate administrative processes give companies and give HR managers, for example, the time needed to have those high quality interactions. So again, it comes back to the people that we serve. Next. And finally, I want to wrap up after the North Star slide. One more. So early on, what we noticed was companies were really struggling. A lot of companies had a huge need for HR and payroll technology solutions, but companies were paralyzed in their ability to sign a contract, to make payments, that kind of thing. So early on during ECQ, we launched the Sprout Rescue Kit. It includes Sprout HR and Sprout Payroll, free for the first 60 days. It's an entirely digital onboarding process. We give you access to our BCP experts. All employees have access to Instacash, which is the loans facility, the lending facility. We have a mobile app, Web Bundy, all these kind of things. It's really a work from home tailored packages for companies that doesn't require any signatures, doesn't require any payment for the first 60 days. So again, anybody interested, info@sprout.ph. That's a good way to avail of this kit. Another last on this isn't even based on technology, but one of the things that we've had so much response with is we do twice a week webinars on HR and legal matters. And because a big issue with companies in this country is that DOLE, BIR, SSS, PhilHealth, Pag-ibig, all these government organizations are issuing new frameworks and new rules and regulations on almost a weekly basis, and companies are really struggling to keep up with that. So my message to Sprout, to our employees, was, look, we're HR and payroll technology experts. We're here to help. And my message to people listening is, lean on us. Lean on companies like us who have deep expertise in these fields and are more than willing to help with questions, with giving you webinars to attend, all these kind of things. So that's my message today. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for that, Patrick. I think the ECQ look suits you very well. We haven't.
Thanks.
And
Yeah.
like you mentioned earlier, I think I still belong to the Gen Z part.
Yeah.
I'm having a little hard time focusing while I'm at home. So
Yeah.
getting excited. Yeah. So we just wanted to quickly touch base on what you mentioned earlier. So Sprout also gives out salary loans. Does that apply, for example, for employees who are employed during ECQ but are not able to get, I guess, salaries at this point in time?
Yes, that's right. Any employee who meets the qualifications within the system can get a salary loan, and that's regardless of whether they're getting a salary right now or not.
Okay, great. And also you mentioned earlier that there's data analytics already that's already part of your system in Sprout. Does that mean that, for example, as an HR personnel myself, for example, does that mean I could match a specific candidate for a specific job and see whether they fit together or not? Is that part of the analytics?
Yeah, I mean, you can run analytics like that absolutely with a tool with Sprout Insight. And basically you're in that scenario, you're looking for trends. So you can, for example, depending on where an employee lives, you can look at the attrition trend for employees who are from a similar area, because a big issue with attrition is location, right? It's one of the #1 drivers of attrition. So being able to look at the attrition rate for your company based on where employees are commuting from, you can draw some parallels as an example of that. Yeah.
Great. I think that's very powerful. They said that data would be as important probably as oil in the future.
Yeah.
So having a data analytics tool like this is actually very useful for companies.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Go ahead, Patrick. You were saying.
Well, it's amazing the volume of data that runs through Sprout. And what's amazing to me is that typically companies don't leverage that data for any kind of like useful purpose.
Right.
The whole goal of leveraging that data is moving HR folks from kind of an administrative function to a very strategic part of the organization, which is where they need to be.
Okay, great. We'll probably ask more questions later during the Q&A panel session. Thanks for that, Patrick. We'll come back to you later. Thank you.
Thanks.
Up next, we'll have Mr. Ron Host from coins.ph. And like his other companions here today, he is a CEO and founder. So just a brief background on Ron. Ron holds a bachelor's and master's degree from Cornell University, where he graduated as the top of his class. So prior to Coins, Ron actually founded TalkBox. So I think he was some sort of clairvoyant. TalkBox is actually a video conferencing company, which was backed by Sequoia Capital, Bain, and Stanford University. So just a quick background, if you haven't heard of Coins yet, Coins is one of Southeast Asia's premier e-wallets and payment platforms. And right now here in the Philippines, they actually cater around 5 million Filipinos. Let's all welcome Ron.
Hi, everybody. I'll wait for the slides. I guess we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so one, thank you for this opportunity. And so I think as you mentioned, Coins is a e-wallet and a provider of financial services. We are also a Union Bank partner. I've been for quite a long time. And I think we're one of those examples that Tito refers to where big companies and smaller companies can collaborate, and we're able to reach customers I guess in a different way and augment our services. So the mission and vision behind Coins is I guess always been to enable more Filipinos to connect directly with financial services and actually help large financial institutions like banks and lenders connect directly to consumers. We can go to the next slide. So we are a BSP regulated entity. We've been operating since 2014. We were acquired last year by a large multinational tech company called Gojek out of Indonesia. And we are currently serving just over 10 million customers and about 10 million transactions a month. So just to give an idea of scale. The next slide. So the core services that I guess we're most well known for consumer side is money remittances. So we allow people to send money to any bank account, make free instant peer-to-peer transactions in our wallets, and also send to a number of Padala centers such as Mlodia, Palawan, LBC, etc. We allow people to buy and sell game credits, buy airtime, pay their bills, and we also provide a payment gateway for certain transactions to be paid from the e-wallet. Next slide, please. Yeah, so I think actually these are just reiterating on our product mix. We can go to the next slide as well. Yeah, so maybe I can just in very brief say how SMEs tend to use Coins, which is a lot of it comes to basically helping and facilitating those points where you need to transmit and move money quickly and easily. So one is for accepting payments from the customers. The other one is for making payments, things like payroll, supplier payments, etc. We provide APIs and a web interface for doing that very easily, and you can send money pretty much anywhere in other forms of disbursements. So basically, most SMEs use this basically to either make payments or accept payments in one form or another. I think that's it for today, for now.
Okay, thanks for that, Ron. Maybe just a quick question coming from your presentation. Here in the Philippines, I think we all hear about GCash and PayMaya a lot. What we would just like to check on, what is the unique selling proposition you would say of Coins as compared to GCash and PayMaya?
I think in general we are probably can be defined at this point as direct competitors. I think in terms of market traction, we're probably somewhere in between GCash and PayMaya. In terms of usability in product, I think, we tend to put a lot of effort into customer service, right? Other pieces is, we do have the blockchain rails, so we use that for international transactions, which gives us like a really broad network. So we have our basically partnerships with a whole number of like cross-border payment companies, and we settle those over blockchain. We also have international remittances that settle over cash, like for example, with one of our partners is Western Union, so our customers can actually deposit into the Coins wallet from I think it's almost 500,000 locations around the globe. And the nice thing is, if you're an OFW, once you deposit the funds in, you can then make bills, back in the Philippines, like for your Morocco bill, or just remit a small amount of funds to your relative, etc.
Okay, I think it's a very powerful tool that you guys have remittances enabled in a Coins card. Especially now, we think that a lot of OFWs will probably be sending funds to help out relatives here that are having a hard time. But you also mentioned earlier that Coins can also be used for supplier payments, for payroll, and for other types of disbursements. Does that mean that you don't just focus on individuals, but also on having relationships with companies that have use of this?
Correct. Yeah, we have quite a few companies that are using our services, and what we found out actually is that same problem the consumers are facing. Right, sending money is just very hard. It's tedious. A lot of companies are still writing like tens, if not hundreds, of checks a day, and then it takes 2 to 3 days for the supplier to cash it. So the supplier is going to have like a working capital deficit for 2 or 3 days, or the company, the SME, will have a working capital deficit for 2 to 3 days. So facilitating that on digital rails is really helpful. And the second situation where it becomes really helpful is when you need to send money to someone who does not have a bank account at all. So if your customers, are like, if you're an insurance company, for example, and you need to make an insurance disbursement, I think we're one of the only providers that actually facilitates termination to a lot of these brick and mortar facilities, like basically the Padala centers. So you can, directly, like from an API, or if you're, send funds to those endpoints, or, even if you're just trying to help, you want to help your household helper send funds to their relatives in the province, you can do that right there from your phone.
Great. I think that's very useful, given that a lot of our viewers today are SMEs and MSMEs, and a lot of them actually have a hard time sending funds. Usually, most of them will have to go through banking partners, which could be quite expensive and could take a while. At least Coins is there as an added option to help out, I guess, smaller companies do away with high costs. Okay,
exactly.
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Ron. We'll get back to you more later. And our next speaker for today is Mr. EJ Arboleda from Taxumo. He's also a CEO and founder. Just a quick update on EJ. He was actually the CTO of Wonderman Manila, a digital advertising company, and was a service manager in HP and P&G prior to starting Taxumo. So for everyone's understanding here, Taxumo is an award-winning government tech startup and is instrumental in the adoption of new technologies for the BIR. So I know tax is a big thing for everyone. A lot of companies just have to pay this, but have to undergo the pains of doing so. So let's talk more with EJ and see what Taxumo has to offer.
All right, there we go. Okay, hi everyone, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Union Bank, for including me in such a distinguished panel today. So it's an honor for that. No? So, okay, so I'm here to talk to you about how to make tax compliance easy in the digital age. All right, next slide, please. So these are probably the questions that you are asking yourself, or these are the questions you should ask for yourself with respect to taxes. First of all, are your tax dues being remitted properly? Let's say you outsource that service. Are you sure that the payments are being remitted to the BIR? Next is, there's a lot of deadlines this June. Okay, the deadlines have been moved, thankfully, because of COVID, because of the ECQ, but they were just moved and they're now all on June, which means all of the deadlines are gonna come in on June. All of the dues are gonna be due on June. So do you know how much you have to pay? That's the next question you need to ask yourself. And lastly, do you still feel the same passion that you feel when you started your business? Do you find that your why has already been overshadowed by your everyday grind? Next slide, please. So this is where Taxumo can help, because we encountered all of those. We have all of those questions as well before, and we encountered all of those problems. And Taxumo was actually built by entrepreneurs for entrepreneurs. So we know what you're going through, and we know how to best solve the problems that you're going through. Next slide, please. Now, how Taxumo works is it's very easy. It's a web application, and all you have to do is just log on, sign up to www.taxumo.com, get an account. Signing up is free, and you're on your way to actually filing your taxes. The first step you have to do, next slide, please. The first step that you have to take is to enter your income and expenses. Okay, it's very easy. You just need to understand how much that is. Just check your receipt and categorize appropriately. Okay, next slide, please. And the next thing that you'll do is that you can just file and pay automatically through Taxumo. What that means is that your forms are automatically filled out by the platform, and you can actually pay online through Taxumo as well. Okay, next slide, please. That means that you are done. You no longer have to go to the BIR to submit anything. You no longer have to submit anything online via eBIR forms, and you no longer have to go to the branch of your RDO, to the AAB of your RDO to make a payment. You can actually do this online, anywhere, anytime. All right, next slide, please. Now, the reason why we're doing this, our mission is that, first of all, 65% of businesses in the Philippines fail. And a lot of it is because the business owners aren't able to grow or aren't able to nurture the business to the point where it has to be to become successful. We found that a lot of it is, it's not a matter of they're not capable or they don't have the capacity to make their business successful, but rather the minutia of the everyday grind basically takes over why they wanted to start that business in the first place. When you start your business, I know that there are days when you ask yourself, why did I do this in the first place? And that's how we want to help, because we want to remove one of the most painful parts of business. And that is, let's be honest to ourselves, it's taxes, you know? So we want to help you with that, make it as easy, as fun as we can make it, and so that you can start focusing again on the why behind your business. Now, the other part of our mission is that we want to drive innovation in the government. And to do this, we believe that technology will actually bring the transparency we need to remove a lot of the red tape and a lot of the corruption that we encounter in government today. So what we did was, when we started Taxumo, we actually decided to tackle the agency that a lot of Filipinos, the least trusted agency, okay, I won't mince words, the least trusted agency by Filipinos, because we wanted to make a difference with what we were trying to do. So we started with the BIR, and now the BIR is adopting innovation. They accredited us. We are a formal partner of the BIR, so all of your submissions that go through us are recognized by the BIR. And now the BIR is actually running hackathons themselves. They have realized the value of that technology and innovation can bring in helping provide better services to Filipinos. Next slide, please. And that's it. I hope that if you do have any more questions on how Taxumo can help ease the pain of taxation for your company, please join the breakout session later, and I'll be more than happy to answer any questions. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that, EJ. I guess you're right. The only thing that's certain is our death and taxes, and it's very, very painful. So we're glad that you actually came up with something that makes tax compliance more bearable and more manageable. Given that you've given this solution for our MSMEs and SMEs, I guess now they can also focus on the more important things to help their business, right? Because technically you've outsourced that portion to Taxumo instead.
That's right, exactly. So the idea is that we make taxes as easy as possible. As Patrick said a while ago, you have to keep up with all of these regulations that keep popping up. So the idea behind Taxumo is you no longer have to do that. We update everything on the back end. We take care of that. And all you have to do is just keep entering your income and expenses. And that should allow you to be compliant already, just that.
Okay. Do you require people to submit proof of their expenses, such as, for example, receipts? Is that also a functionality in the platform?
Well, it's optional. They could submit it because there are certain users on our system who are favorites of BIR auditors. So what
Oh,
they do
who
is
are the favorites
they
of
will
the
upload. Exactly. What they do is they upload pictures of the receipts. Okay. So whenever they are asked by the auditor, they just pull up the information through their Taxumo dashboard. They just pull up the receipt there and they have their proof right there. Although that is optional regarding, it depends on how much use you want to get out of Taxumo, but that functionality is there.
Okay, great. We'll get back to you again later, EJ. Thanks for that.
Sure. Thank you.
Up next, we have Mr. Dick Chang, founder, CEO, and CTO of DragonPay. So Dick is the director of DCOM, which is a Digital Commerce Association of the Philippines, as well as a director of the Fintech Association of the Philippines. So everyone out here, I hope you guys join both of those associations as it could help your business grow. Other than that, Dick graduated with a BS in computer science from Ateneo with special mention. And he also took his MBA from Babson Graduate School of Business. So for everyone's information here, if you haven't heard yet of DragonPay, well, now's the time. So let's all welcome Mr. Dick Chang.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having me here. Right there, thank you. DragonPay is a 10-year-old company, and we have been doing payment solutions, both collection as well as disbursement, for the last 10 years. For my presentation today, I thought I'd give a little bit of a snapshot as to what's been happening during the ECQ period as far as payments are concerned. And I was also seeing some Q&A earlier, or some chats where people were asking, how do the transactions look like when the quarantine started? So next slide, please. So this is a picture of our transaction history. This is the number of completed collection payments. So we were growing consistently, January, February, and February was actually our best month since we started. We did about 1.7 million payment collections. So these are payments for products or services that were bought online. And then quarantine happened. So the first half of March was still normal and we were still continually growing. And then when third week of March came in and the quarantine started, everything just suddenly dropped. But we didn't go to zero. We were actually still doing maybe about 50% or maybe about 45% of our normal volume. So people were still buying even during the start of the quarantine. But I guess everyone was kind of was still in a shell shock stage. And with the delivery really halting starting around third week of March, e-commerce pretty much also stalled or stopped. People couldn't buy deals to go to their usual spa or gym or restaurant to actually consume it. And you couldn't go to your favorite marketplace to buy things because nobody could deliver. So things really sort of halted. And then people sort of gotten used to what's happening. And then they started seeing the Lala moves and the Grab delivery started moving around. So by April, we started going back already to our normal daily volume. And what is really amazing, of course, is May, which so far is turning out to be our blockbuster month. We're expecting to end this month with around 2.6, 2.7 million transactions, which is almost a million more than our previous record, which was set on February. So to answer the question of I can't remember if it was a gentleman or a lady who asked in the Q&A, e-commerce is actually very much alive during the quarantine period. And people are flocking to e-commerce because there's really no convenient way to go out and buy things. So next slide, please. So this one is answering the question of, so what are people buying and what are they using to make payments? So the big surprise here is the growth of e-wallets, which accounted for 58% of our total volume during the quarantine period. So our friends Ron and Coins would be part of this big chunk of pie, as well as GCash, PayPal, and the other forms of wallets. So they're accounting for more than half of the transactions during this quarantine period. A big surprise, of course, is online banking, which has also been growing consistently, 17%. And that 17%, of course, is 7% of a very big pie. So it's a very significant growth. Our non-bank channels, which are the Cebuana, the Mlulieres, the Palawan, the LBC 7-Eleven, it has shrunk relatively speaking. It's doing 25%. Prior to that, it was the largest piece of the pie. But of course, with the quarantine and people can't go out anymore physically to make payments, it became much smaller. And probably as to no surprise, over-the-counter banking, which used to be around 10-15%, is now less than 1%. So it's like 0.6%. So nobody's going to the physical bank anymore to make any payments. And the banks themselves are probably not really helping because they've put up announcements that they're going to stop accepting bills payment or other forms of payment, and they're pushing their customers to actually go online. So that would probably explain it as well. And what have people been buying? So 36% of our transactions are related to fintech matters. So this would be anything from topping up their Coins wallet to topping up their online bank account, or some of them are doing Forex trading. And of course, there's still the online lending part. There's still some transactions going on there. But the other big parts, of course, food. Food has significantly increased. Again, no surprise. The likes of Food Panda, Lala Move, I think they're all doing well because people couldn't go out and buy food, so it's all being delivered. Digital goods has also significantly increased, especially those related to gaming and anything to do with entertainment. So we're doing well with the likes of Netflix. As you can imagine, people are bored. They need to do something at home. So Netflix is doing good. There, a lot of gaming credits are being purchased. One of our breakout merchant is in the business of selling everything from digital vouchers to PS4 games, consoles. Or they're doing really well. Yeah, so next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the patterns that we are seeing, food business is doing well, and we're processing purchases for food, not only cooked food, but as well as raw, or some of them are frozen or partly cooked. So that is getting popular. Clothes and supplies is starting to pick up. When the quarantine started, our merchants like National Bookstore, for example, they stopped business for a while, again, because there's no way to deliver, but have already started picking up. Merchants like Hanabishi are doing well, selling electric fans because of the heat. Some other surprises that I can't really quite figure out. We have small enterprises, SMEs really, doing very well selling bathing suits. This one I can't figure out. It's not like people can actually go to the beach or go to an amusement, a swimming park area, but it's doing well. Consumption of digital goods, I mentioned, is doing well, from gaming points to things like Netflix or Spotify. And starting this month, we have seen a significant uptick in terms of interest when it comes to online payment for enrollment, which is, again, not a surprise because school is supposed to start by next month. Some schools are delaying it, some are going online. But regardless, the general trend is, I guess it looks like it's going to be the new normal. We have to face the fact that enrollment is going to go online, and it follows that payment for enrollment will have to go online. And of course, very high interest in fintech products. Topping up wallets is a very big thing right now, as well as buying electronic loads and all forms of fintech products, whether opening a digital bank account with Union Bank or with other digital banks and topping it up online. So next slide, please. So just some takeaway from what we have seen. So for the SMEs or even the big companies, taking your business online is not really that difficult. And a lot of people who have gone online in the past few weeks, we have seen, are mostly using Shopify. Really fast way to get up and running. Really nice looking webpage, and Dragon Pay is one of the payment options that are pre-built into Shopify. And when you go online, of course, you always have to consider your target market and how they plan to pay you. So if you're looking at credit cards, you have to realize that only a small percent of the market would have credit cards. And even if you're targeting those that have bank accounts, still, they're a small percentage of the population. course, with e-wallets gaining some traction, I think Ron mentioned 10 million users earlier. So if you throw in Gcash and Paymaya, you probably have maybe 20-25% as well of the population, including overlaps in there that would have e-wallets. So next slide. So yes, so DragonPay, I mentioned we're a 10-year-old company, and we can give you payment options up and running very quickly, whether you're just going to go with Shopify, or we also have partners who can do Facebook Messenger-based online purchasing. So instead of going through a shopping cart online, you do it basically using Facebook Messenger. So for users who are more used to just doing PMs, they can go through Facebook. And we also support the broadest forms of payment out there, from online banking, e-wallets, and of course, good old cash payments. And regardless of the size of your business, whether you're a conglomerate looking for multi-site setups, or whether you're a small micro SMEs, or even just an individual personal seller in Instagram, we have all sorts of solutions for you. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Dick. I guess if I'm going to start an online business, I know which specific items I should be selling now. Thanks for that. But anyway, I think you mentioned something very interesting as well, that I think a lot of SMEs and MSMEs should always consider, which is to match your demographic to your payment options. So as rightly pointed out by Dick, only a certain amount of the population have credit cards or bank accounts. So at least DragonPay is there to offer multiple types of payments or various channels that you could accept from. So that's one thing. And another thing that we wanted to, I guess, emphasize is more and more, we're seeing higher interest in fintechs. So because of this whole COVID situation, as Steve Landman mentioned earlier, Patrick Gentry mentioned earlier, that because of this situation, the need for tech or to go digital has become compounded and become compressed. And more than ever, it's something that's become very necessary. Okay, so let's move on to our last speaker for today, Mr. JP Soliman from Global Linker. So JP is the head of the SME platform for the SME banking group of Union Bank. He's been with the bank since 2008, holding various positions in transaction banking and in customer segments. So Global Linker, for everyone here, it's an SME platform wherein there are various networks of individuals and companies that get together, that network, and connect to other markets. So let's hear more from JP.
Hi, everyone. I hope you can hear me properly. Let me share with you more about what we call the Union Bank Global Linker and how it can help you in terms of expounding and growing your business. There's a lot of things, many different things that you can do and see inside the platform. Can we move to the next slide, please? All right. First of all, we've created Global Linker to be a free-to-use platform for everyone. What do we mean by free-to-use? You do not have to pay any single centavo just to sign up. You do not need, or you're not required to have a Union Bank account at the onset to get yourself started. What's important here is that we are able to provide you the right tools and the right avenues to grow your business and prepare you to move your business to the digital level or the digital space. So we enable a lot of growth inside the platform, and most importantly, we enable a lot of network building. Surprisingly, since the start of the pandemic, we've seen a lot of different SMEs connecting to each other, starting different discussions, forums, and groups just to share experiences and how they can help each other move out of this crisis that they are in. We've seen a lot of different connections and even sales happening inside the platform between two business-to-business organizations. Can we move, please? The platform itself has 300,000 members globally. Global Linker as a brand is available both in the Philippines, India, even in Vietnam at the moment. We've launched Global Linker in Vietnam. But locally, if you move to the next slide, locally we have 43,000 members and still growing. And we have connected to 34 different technology partners. The guys that you saw earlier, that you've heard talk earlier, they're all also partners inside Global Linker. So they are there available immediately for you to connect and be able to move your business online, right? And digitize. And another thing is that we are starting to create a lot of different ecosystems. We have live proposals and executions with 15 different corporates and even government partners, such as the Department of Trade, to enable more growth into the SME market. Next slide, please. there. So the platform was purely built with the micro, small, and medium enterprise customers in mind. So we made it multi-device accessible. So we have a mobile app that you can download. It's available in Google Play and in App Store. There's a very good user interface on the web, and we have also incorporated a lot of different management tools that you can use. Our friends from Sprout earlier mentioned that they are also providing different HRIS solutions and payroll solutions, which is there also available in Global Linker. We have built in an inventory management platform or system inside a Linker store, which allows you to go and bring your business to e-commerce. We have enabled the CRM functionality. And I'm happy to say, I'm very proud to say that soon, hopefully starting next month or early July, we are able to do marketplace integrations as well with our partners with Lazada, Shopee, and other marketplaces available. Next slide, please. Right. So what is it really inside Global Linker that's very good modules for you? We have a very deep knowledge center for you. We have a lot of articles. We have a lot of forums that's going on that helps the SME prepare for the next level. Well, I have good news. We have already secured contracts with more partners who will provide you not just articles, but this time around playbooks. What is a playbook? A playbook are real step-by-step roadmaps that you can get and you can activate to help your business transform. And it's very critical, especially now that after this pandemic, after the lockdown, a lot of businesses will really need to transform, maybe internally, maybe in terms of face-to-face with the customers, but those playbooks will really be helpful for you. We also provide a B2B listing marketplace where you can start selling your products to the other members of Global Linker, both locally and internationally. We have curated a lot of events. I'll be honest, just for the few months of the pandemic, we've already done 42 different events for our members. And we post them also in social media to be accessible for non-members of Global Linker. I mentioned earlier, we have 34 different technology partners for you, and we enable your growth and your business to go to e-commerce through a Linker store platform. So it's a do-it-yourself web builder that's very easy to use. If you are on the high end of a technology savvy and very good in creating websites, you can finish a free website in say 15 minutes or 20 minutes. But we've seen also a lot of SMEs, it's their first time to use a web builder platform, and they get to finish a website in less than an hour. And we also have partners who will enable your payment gateways, just like Dragon Pay here. They are also available in Global Linker. They can enable your payment gateway, and they can enable also logistics partners for you inside the platform. Next, please. Yeah, so I like to show you some screenshots of how the platform looks. So when you go in, immediately you can see a knowledge page where we are curating a lot more of these articles. Now the articles would come from real writers, business gurus, and honest to goodness, there's a lot of articles that are being written by our members themselves. So they are also sharing their thoughts, they're sharing their experiences through articles. We have curated also groups. There are groups for retailers, for travel and tourism. There's group for hotels. There's group for manufacturing. And the beauty about it is that you're not just confined locally. It's global groups. So like-minded individuals and SMEs can share and can contribute to each other. Next, please. There. So now we will see here that there's also a page on the listings. So if you look at the listings page on the left, it has that look and feel of how a Lazada or a Zalora or a Shopee would look. So you can start promoting a lot of your businesses there online. There's a good story that happened here. There's a Filipina, I believe from Cebu, who posted her products in the listings page. She's providing leather and sporting goods, and a distributor from India was able to get in touch with her, and now they're doing export. The member of Linker Philippines was able to export goods, leather goods and sporting materials, sporting wear to that distributor in India. And again, in terms of events, we are really putting a lot of different events. In fact, we have partnered with organizations like e-learning platforms. We've partnered with business gurus, motivational speakers who are providing their events right now free of charge. So if you can still find a lot of events there free of charge, go ahead and join them, because I believe that after the lockdown they will start charging a very minimal fee or a token fee for the different events. But I'm telling you, I've been to some of these events and they are really really very helpful, not just for the SME owner but even for the employees. Again, Global Linker is an open platform. You can have your employees join, sign up, and they themselves have a lot of different tools that they can use inside Global Linker. Next slide, please. Now I'd like to show you about the Linker store. Next slide, please. So the Linker store, oh sorry, let's talk about the offers. So there's a page there where we group together all our partners. So there's Steve's company, Q, EJ's company, Taxumo, and the rest of the gang is all there. And of course, banking solutions. So in the event that you are now ready to open an account with Union Bank, immediately you can access the different products and services from a regular checking account, a business account, to a credit card, and we have all the user workflows for you where you can start applying for an account. Next slide, please. There. So the Linker store is a free website builder for you. We will pay for the URL, right? We will pay for the hosting of it. It's totally for free. What's good about it is that for businesses where it's their first time to go to e-commerce, this is a very good way for you to onboard. It's the almost zero cost in terms of resources that you need to spend in onboarding, and you can experiment a lot in customizing your website and changing the content of your website and getting to really promote it. In fact, we even put a search engine optimization tool inside where you can key in all the keywords that you want so that you can also raise the bar in terms of Google searches for your website. And of course, the different tools that are available inside. We provide a briefcase for every SME owner. So that briefcase allows you to exchange documents between you and a potential customer inside Linker, or even just simply exchange files between you and an employee. So a lot of those tools are available. Next, please. We're also enhancing very much what Global Linker is, and there's a lot of relevance in terms of content. We will not stop today. There's a lot more in terms of webinar series, and again, like I mentioned, playbook series, podcast series that we are experimenting on to deliver to our audience. We do a lot of surveying inside the platform. We ask our members, what is it that you need to learn? What is it that you need to understand? And we make sure we have the correct expert to guest in and to talk about those ideas for you. Not just that, next slide, please. We are also launching another a free ebook inside the platform. So we already gave away a free ebook about managing the impact of COVID-19 using technology. If you are a new member, you just sign up and you'll see a banner about that free ebook. You click it and you get the ebook. In the next few days, we will be launching another ebook on data privacy and protecting businesses and customers in the e-commerce space. And we are heavily promoting what we call Project Lifeline. It's a forum that we have inside in partnership with Mosvelt, with Bounce Back PH. And we have free legal advice. We have volunteer lawyers who provide free legal advice to SMEs, especially now that there's a lot of dark areas in terms of legal and contracting and even about Department of Labor. And these lawyers will really be helpful for your transition. Next slide, please. Right. We're also seeing a lot of ecosystems being built inside the platform. So we are ready, and we've also enabled supply chain. So if you noticed earlier, we said that we are providing e-commerce enabled stores, and using that in a supply chain is something that we have already was able to pilot. We are able to provide e-procurement. We're able to provide visibility of inventories in supply chain, logistics management, ordering systems, invoicing systems. All of that available for a distributor and principal network or a franchise or franchisee network. And guess what? We are going down to the micro level. We are even starting a grocery online where we will be able to onboard even the sari-sari store, your neighbor, that small shanty sari-sari store in front of you. As long as they are connected online, we'll be able to promote them in a platform and people can buy from them as well. So this is very exciting even for the micro entrepreneurs. So I believe these are all the slides that I have for now, and we are continually and going further in enhancing, expanding, and innovating our platform because we believe that the future really starts with the MSMEs. The future starts with all our customers. It starts with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for that, JP. So aside from the networking and being able to, I guess, advertise your company and your business offshore to those that are part of Global Linker, we attended another seminar last week, which was sponsored by the DTI. And one of the recurring themes there was that there was a need for MSMEs to sort of go online. So that means to start an e-commerce business or to start their own website. Other than that is they needed to find ways and means to be able to accept payments online as well. And thirdly was having the access to funding. So out of all of those three, would you say those requirements would be fulfilled aptly by Global Linker with our various partners on the platform?
Yes, are you talking about the Control Biz Reboot program of DTI? Yes, we are even partnered with that webinar. We're even guested also in that webinar. So from moving to online to getting the right partners for your online business or even for your traditional business and to even funding your business, everything is available inside Global Linker through service providers and tech partners as well.
Okay, great. Thanks for that, JP. I guess now everyone has the chance to input their questions in our Q&A or in our chat room here so that our speakers will have the chance to discuss any of your questions. Maybe we could start first. It's a question directed to Mr. Dick Chang of DragonPay and Ron Host of Coins. One of the questions that we've received so far was, what advice can you share with SMEs that are dependent on accepting cash transactions or payments? And what options should they consider using without necessarily alienating the traditional cash-heavy consumers?
I'll go ahead, Ron. Yeah, so based on our experience, although people are really so used to paying in cash, but I think they were really forced to look at other alternatives during the quarantine period. And we should probably not really, I don't know if the word belittle is the right word, but maybe we're belittling their capability to move up the chain. Although, of course, DragonPay's volume is still largely dependent on over-the-counter cash payments, but we do believe that eventually people will start migrating up or leveling up to other products like e-wallets. So I think if you have a business right now or you want to go online and you think that you're heavily dependent on cash payments right now, well, you could always consider DragonPay because we accept everything from cash payments to e-wallets. But at the same time, I guess have an open mind that people will learn how to use other things like online banking or e-wallets if they are really, have their back pushed against the wall.
Right. Ron, do you want to input your own comments?
Yes, so I agree with Dick. I guess I'd also add to that we should look at it as creating optionality for your customers, right? So obviously anything that we do needs to be inclusive. And so it's important that merchants still accept cash and that we give all the options that are possible to customers. But at the same time, I think that it's important for businesses to transform. And in addition to accepting cash, now begin to accept digital payments because actually that's inclusive, right? There are a whole number of customers now that are not able to pay cash for a number of reasons. One, they might not be able to travel to you or give you the cash in hand. Two, they might be in a high risk demographic where actually handling cash and handling physical transactions might literally put their health at a higher risk. And three, there's a whole category of new customers that are emerging for whom transacting over an e-wallet or over a digital rail is just much more convenient. So when you do that, when you create this additional optionality for your customers, you're actually expanding the number of customers that you can reach.
Okay, during this whole ECQ, Ron, did you see a rise in coin subscribers or new users since then?
Yes, absolutely. So we're our operations teams have been working very, very hard because we unfortunately do not anticipate this much growth for in terms of new users for this next few months, and it's very hard to hire right now. So everybody is working really long hours to keep up.
Right. Okay, let's just circle back to Dick for DragonPay. So I saw earlier in your slides that you presented that you have a specific functionality in the platform, which is called Sure Tayo. So basically it acts as an escrow service, right? For people who actually feel unsafe with giving their funds out. Can you talk more about this, Dick, for DragonPay?
Yeah, sure. Like one thing we've noticed during the quarantine period, and you should know this because we live in the same community. When all the restaurants were closed, pretty much the houses were, the homeowners started selling to each other everything from kimchi to lumpia, and these are people who don't really necessarily have business registrations. And I guess this is true also for a lot of people selling things over Instagram, wherein they're just personal sellers and they don't have access to a lot of payment options. And at the same time, there's a lot of scammers out there, and we encounter these types of people all the time. I guess the danger there is, unlike in a community where you kind of know each other and you know where that person who is selling kimchi actually lives, you don't really have a second thought in sending money ahead, maybe by sending it over through online banking, because worst case, you know where he lives. But in reality, when you're buying from someone, especially like in Instagram, uh, that person could be just posting an image that they copied from Shopee or somewhere else, and they may not actually have access to the goods, and they're just fooling people. So where Sure Tayo comes in is we're operating an escrow service wherein the buyer would send the money through us, and we would in turn only remit it to the seller once the buyer has confirmed receiving the goods. So the advantage to the buyer is security over what is paying for. The advantage to the seller is having access to all of DragonPay's payment channels. So they'd be able to reach a larger audience and even sell to people who might normally not trust them.
Okay, thanks for that, Dick. So we have a question here from the viewers in our chat room. So you mentioned very clearly things about scammers being out there. That's very true. But along in the same lines, we also see a lot of hackers coming in. And even if GCash, PayMaya, and Coins have upped their security systems, the hackers have done the same. So how do you convince people to get on these e-wallet platforms without having to be necessarily scared of cybersecurity and those issues that are a part of that, Ron?
Yeah, I think it's very, very important for both for the platforms to build protection measures, right, and for customers to kind of for us to work towards, I guess, increasing knowledge and awareness, within customers. So for us, obviously, it's important to make clear that, when we say that accounts are getting hacked or things like that, I'm not actually aware of any incident where PayMaya, GCash, or Coins have been actually hacked. But what happens more frequently is that customers, unfortunately, are getting scammed into either giving their account credentials or they get scammed into transferring funds to somebody under certain circumstances, right? And I think even with that, we've introduced a number of programs to monitor transactions and monitor customer activity and to control access to the accounts, etc., to reduce the chance that even if you're actually giving your account login and password to somebody else, that they would still not be able to withdraw funds from your account. That's very hard, so you can't do it all the time. But yeah, I think I'd go back to the basics. As far as if you're depositing funds into an e-wallet, right? The first thing to know is that those funds are actually held at a bank. That's mandated by BSP. So your funds are actually always secure in that sense. It's important that you don't share your password or credentials, that you don't log in on any third-party site, because those are usually either a phishing site or a scam site. So you can protect your password so no one else will be using it to log into your account. That's the most common way that people's accounts become subject to unauthorized access. And the third one, I think, and this really touches back on Dick's point and kind of what DragonPay is doing. When you're making purchases online, you have to remember If you don't know the person on the other side, you don't know the person on the other side. And the same way that you would not handle like a bundle of cash to like a person that you just met on the street without knowing who they are, what their reputation is, right? You really want to make sure that either you're trading with a reputable entity, right? So that's why we have marketplaces like Shopee and Lazada and Zalora and the likes, right? Because they validate actually who the merchants are. And if there's a dispute, they will protect you as a customer. Or if you are transacting with somebody that you don't know, then you should absolutely definitely use a service like DragonPay to ensure that your funds are protected.
Okay, I love the cross-selling. Thanks for that, Ron. Okay, so I guess we have another question here, and I think this is in everyone's mind. Digital transformation has very aptly become a buzzword nowadays, but many companies are actually interested in how this can help them become more efficient or become more cost efficient. So what are the specific internal operations that businesses can consider, and how do they decide which parts first should they start to digitize? How do you sort of know where to begin? Because I think that's a problem for a lot of companies. Is that true? There are now a lot of options and we're very glad for that, but where should we start digitization first? So maybe Steve, Patrick, or EJ can answer this question.
Sure, I can take a stab at it. So, well, for me, this is like a bit probably in my benefit, but you know, you need to start with your core processes, payroll being one of them. So the core business functionalities that you need. So whether it does depend on industry, but you're gonna have like inventory management, payroll, HR, your accounting. These are all things that should be digital and should be largely automated. So yeah, I mean that's where you would start as a business. I think these are basic, and there are a lot of tools for all of these functions available in the market. So it's a good place to start. Versus starting with something like performance management or learning management, maybe a little bit further out in your roadmap. You know, you start with your core, and then you get to your a little bit more nice to haves. So yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Patrick. Anything you want to add, Steve, given that Q has actually a lot of offerings available for companies out there. So where it's whether it's sales or inventory or accounting, where should companies begin? Do you share the sentiment of Patrick that it should begin with core processes, or do you have a different suggestion?
I mean, I agree with Patrick for sure. Also, I want to make clear, digitalization and digital transformation are completely different. Digitizing is going from analog to digital. Digitalization is actually putting in technology to digitalize your processes. Digital transformation is the human transformation going digital. So we need to be really clear when we use those words, right? So I think first you need to understand the transformation, the human part of it, as I said earlier. But I think functions like accounting, because it's so important, who are you paying, who's paying you, and then communication would be probably where I would start with, right? So you can communicate with customers and internally and vendors.
Thanks for sharing that tidbit, Steve. Now we know the differences between digitization and digital transformation. Now I'm confused which part we're at. Okay, but anyway, EJ, do you want to add anything else to what Steve and Patrick have mentioned earlier?
Sure. Thanks, Erica. So I think people, you know, when they want to outsource something, they usually outsource it because, you know, they don't want to do it. But you also have to realize that when you outsource something, you're not necessarily mitigating the risk associated with that particular process. So you have to understand also, what is the risk of if I'm not the one delivering this? Is if I outsource this, or if I get something digital to do this particular part of the process, is this something that will lower my risk actually? Or is this something that will increase my risk because I'm losing control over it? So there are certain questions that you need to answer and certain dimensions that you also have to look at. So I think there's no like best answer for everyone. unsatisfyingly, because end of the day, it's really like up to your risk appetite as well, up to how much control you want to have. And you know, you have to realize also, for example, you probably have staff who's not really good at a certain aspect of the business, then that's probably something that you want to outsource. But you have staff who's good at different things, that might be something you want to keep. So you also have to balance all of the requirements of what you have in your business right now. So end of the day, it's something that only you can answer, to be honest.
Okay, great. So just a follow-up question to all three. So given that digitization is obviously very useful nowadays, but then how do you deal, for example, or how do you convince your customers with inertia, right? Because everyone knows in theory that it's required, it's needed, especially nowadays, but how do you deal with inertia? How do you convince customers or even upper management that now is the time,
Right.
right?
Maybe I'll just kick things off. But one of the things that worked really well for us was we had what we called early evangelists. So they were early adopters to the technology who eventually became evangelists for us. I think for the people who have a lot of inertia, what would convince them eventually is if there's social proof, if there's someone else that can convince them, someone they trust, who will then sort of like lend their trust to that new thing that you wanna you know, adopt basically. So end of the day, I think you know, you wanna go after early evangelists, go after people who can be evangelists for you and can share what good thing they're getting out of your platform.
Great. Actually, that's a good idea. Anything else to add, Patrick, Steve, on what EJ has expounded for us?
So I have an interesting story on this. But when we started Sprout, we launched with a website. You could go to the website, sign up, get your login credentials, start using the system, and pay us. That was our attempt at SaaS product in the Philippines, and it was a complete failure. A ton of people signed up, nobody stuck around. And basically the lesson is you have to go analog to go digital. We had to meet our customer on their terms and then guide them into digitalization. So basically we had to hire a lot of salespeople. We had to do a lot of in-person meetings. We have to do a ton of live events. Like we do 3 to 4 events a month. Well, pre-COVID, we would do 3 to 4 events a month where people would come and see us and meet us. And that's the kind of very hands-on, in-person connections that are needed to drive adoption from some people who are very, let's say, like less familiar with tech, with moving some of these processes from analog to digital, from to using like cloud-based tools for things like HR data and payroll information, payroll processing. So yeah, I mean, meet the customer on their terms and then bring them around. So yeah, and if all else fails, then have a pandemic, and and then people come around real fast.
Right. Actually, it's a thank you. Well, not really thank you, but it's largely because of this pandemic, right? That it sort of accelerated a lot of things for us. Anyway, anything else to add on that, Steve, on your end? Do you have your own experiences that you want to share here with everyone on how it was like for Q to sort of convince its customers to take that step?
I think it's really about starting small and growing, right? So you don't want to try to go transform your whole organization or digitalize your whole organization. Again, start with core products, right? And build on that. You don't need to change everything at one time. It'll never work, right? So start small.
Okay, great. Thanks for that. And we have one last question here. For all of our other viewers, you could input more questions if you want in our chat room. But anyway, I'll go on. A lot of businesses are looking to pivot towards e-commerce. And what advice can you give them on how to evaluate whether it's a good idea or not, how to get started, and if it is, what pointers do they need to keep in mind before they delve into e-commerce? Maybe JP or Dick, you want to share your thoughts on this?
Sure. Dick, you want me to go ahead?
Yes, please,
okay.
JP.
All right. So first thing you look at is your product. Is your product something that we really sell online? What do? Try to search for your product in Google and find if there are people who are selling the same product as yours. That's one. Second, try to figure out your customers, your current customers. What is the new ways for them to reach you? If an online platform or a website is perfect for that, then go ahead. I realize that some companies, they would rather, or it's more efficient for them to join marketplaces like, say, Shopee, Lazada, since their items are very small. It's just a retail, very retail type product. But there are some who would need to have their own websites because they do a lot more of wholesale, or their products might be priced a little bit differently. And then third, look at your capability in terms of fulfillment. Because if you're not ready to fulfill in terms of having a logistics partner, a payment gateway partner, things like that, then uh, you might want to really reconsider. But if you are open to partnering with logistics and payment gateways, then by all means, please onboard to e-commerce and go digital in the way you sell. Dick, you might want to add something.
Uh, no, I think you covered it pretty well. Yeah, I'm just going to say that there's no better time to test your theory than now, I guess.
Okay, great. But how about companies that are into service? Obviously, like if you're selling goods and products, it's very easy to go online. But how about a lot of MSMEs or SMEs out here that are involved in, let's say, a service-oriented type of businesses? How should they go online, put their business online, and get payments online?
Well,
Actually, I
for
think, yeah, go ahead,
yeah,
JP.
go ahead, Dick.
I was
Yeah.
going to say that services are probably much easier to transition to going online than physical products. So whether it's providing for consulting services or like, for example, one of the government agency that we are accepting payments for, it's payments for basically patents, trademarks, the IPO, the Intellectual Property Office. So during the whole ECQ quarantine situation, their transaction just kept going along. I guess people still have to register their trademarks, their businesses, their ideas, their logos. So services, I think, work much better under any scenario than physical products.
I want to add to that because actually, look at some of the most successful digital companies in the Philippines right now. They're services companies, right? Like Grab transformed transportation services, delivery services into digital, and is wildly successful doing that. So one, I think to answer your original question, is it a good idea to do? I would say almost in all cases, the answer is yes. And the justification for that, regardless of whether you're selling a product or a service, if you want to grow your business, you need to go where the customers are. And the purchase process for your customers is inevitably almost always starting online, right? In one form or another. Either they're on Google trying to research and find information about your product or service, or they're on Viber or WhatsApp asking a friend, about how to acquire a product or service. And that is, if you need to interject the process at that point to be able to reach more customers. That's how you grow your business. And that transformation and transition actually, has already happened, right? Where we're lagging is the acquisition of customers. But the customers themselves, they've moved digital already years ago. Come on, we're like one of the most digital countries in the world in terms of how we use Messenger and all those tools.
Okay, so that's a good reminder to everyone here, is to always look for where the customer is, right? And that should be a recurring theme for a lot of businesses when they should keep things in mind on what next step that they should take. Okay, so we have a dial-in question here specifically for Steve. So it's quite lengthy. Anyway, I'll just go through it very quickly, Steve. Okay. So for Steve Landman, what is your advice to an MSME who is more focused on their core operations of selling and disbursing, but does not give the attention to the back office support and administration activities such as bookkeeping, regulatory compliance, etc.? How could your company support this so that the MSME at the least cost?
So that's a great question, and I really like working with the MSMEs. and I think they need the most support. And I think also education's a big component to it, right? So we actually built Q Academy in like Bangkok, where we help the MSME and the SME learn. But the way that I think Q can help you is actually we have a very simple app where you actually just enter very simple sales data, sales transaction data, and purchasing and expense data. Again, keeping it really simple, right? And all you have to do is enter an invoice or even use point of sale system or enter something you purchase. You can even take a photo of an invoice or a receipt and we can extract the data off of it. So we really want to understand the behavior of MSME. So we wanted to make the functionality very easy. But luckily in the back end, the system's actually doing all of the transaction, putting it into the chart of accounts, the journal entries, and allowing you to create reports and calculate tax because we've already done all that work for you in the back. And you can easily report and send reports. If you need to borrow money from Union Bank, you can actually submit P&Ls and balance sheets so they can actually lend you money. So we've done a lot, like 90% of that back office work for you. You don't have to do it.
Okay, thanks for that, Steve. Maybe let's go back to Patrick. So Patrick, earlier on you discussed Sprout being free for a couple of months, especially during this pandemic. What made you give it out for free? And do you think that, well, once they're on the platform, obviously, do you think that they'll continue using Sprout, even if there's already a cost associated to it?
Yeah, so we launched it because for the simple reason that companies had a need but did not have the ability to go through the more formal process of all the contracts and payments and all of that kind of thing that normally comes with a subscription to a software like Sprout in the Philippines. And so, yeah, like literally the second week of ECQ, we launched the Rescue Kit, which was the last week of March. And April was our biggest month ever by far. And so there was just a tremendous amount of interest in it. We had a ton of signups and usage has been fantastic. We've been pleasantly surprised with how aggressive these companies, take up the system, go through the digital onboarding process and use the software. And, HR and payroll is incredibly important for companies and thus a very sticky product. So yeah, it's pretty easy for companies to transition into a paid account from those free trials. So yeah, so we're really looking forward to helping these companies long term with these processes.
Okay, that's great. Actually, a lot of other fintech companies or tech companies globally have also decided to make that move and offer their services for free, especially during this time. So we're thinking that probably a lot of these companies will continue, most likely, to use these services even after the pandemic, knowing that it has made their lives so much easier. So thanks for that, Patrick. Anything else that any of the panelists want to add so we could actually wrap up today's session? Last words or reminders on the products that you want to give a few words on, probably Coins or Sprout or maybe even DragonPay?
One thing that I want to note, we have a ton of clients. I've been talking with a lot of them. Nearly every client that I talk to has talked to me about how they are extending work from home for their workforces. So just for everybody's reference, because we have quite a broad perspective on the market, I think this will result in a long-term shift of how work is done in the Philippines. I think you'll see a pretty lasting impact from this whole event. So yeah, so plan around that.
Great. Thanks for that insight. Actually, very useful. A lot of companies will actually start implementing work from home, and maybe more employees will start looking for jobs that offer that type of flexibility. How about you, Rod? Anything to add, especially for our viewers today?
I was going to add to that point because look, we have team members who travel 1 to 2 hours in each direction every day, right? And so that's 3 to 4 more hours they can spend with their family every day. So I agree. I think this is a really good thing that is happening. That more employers are going to be able to provide that flexibility, and maybe it's going to cut down traffic on EDSA a little bit too. So that won't hurt either.
We can dream.
But yeah, I mean, it's a dream. Yeah. So I think, we have a good panel here. I don't think anybody is going to go and try to promote downloading their app, but rather, I think the more important closing statement, I think, is just to highlight again that, with all the kind of, unfortunate things that are happening with this disease, right? And there's a lot of people that are suffering from this, and a lot of people are having a hard time, bringing food on the table. And it is really a tough times. There is also, a silver lining in this, in that it is creating, some opportunities for all of us to emerge out of this with something that, we didn't have before. And so, I just want to end on that sliver of optimism.
It's good to still become optimistic, especially during these trying times. And actually, it pushes us to rethink how we do things and what we want to prioritize. So that's actually a good point. How about for Dick or for Steve, anything that you want to add as closing remarks for all of our viewers for today?
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Go ahead, Dick. Go ahead.
If you guys are still fence sitting in there trying to figure out whether you should try e-commerce or not, I guess the slide of one of the speakers earlier, of companies who are dilly-dallying and not really wanting to go in, I think there's no better time to try out your ideas than now. And DragonPay is here to help for whatever payment requirements that you would have. Steve.
Thanks, Dick. I just want to say, you guys, I'm in Vietnam, and Vietnam we're free, and it's almost like we never had a virus. So don't worry, things will get back to normal. So I want to just give you, aside from technology, there's hope that things will actually resume to normality. So be positive, and things are going to get better. I promise.
I thought you were in San Francisco. Okay, sorry. JP, any last words for everyone here? Maybe they want to sign up on Global Linker.
Yeah, please sign up to Global Linker. It's free sign up. It's unionbank.globallinker.com. I actually replied to a question earlier. Where can she access all of us? I said in one place. We are all in Global Linker. So sign up and you'll find all of us there. Start exploring. There's really a lot of learning that has to be done, especially those who are still truly dilly-dallying. The reason why you're dilly-dallying is because you don't know really what to do, and there's a lot of help that you can get from other SMEs, help from other articles and materials that you can look for and consume inside the platform. So please go ahead and sign up.
Okay, thank you to all of our panelists for today. That's it for us. We hope you learned a lot of things. If you have additional questions on any of these products, the CEOs and founders of these companies will be present here in the breakout rooms. Just log into those Zoom rooms and the team will be there to respond to any of your questions, or if you just want to discuss in more detail any specific pain points of your company, we can be of service, we can be of help. So please log in on that. Other than that, we thank everyone for being in the second webinar. We invite you again. We'll send out announcements pretty soon for the third one. So please wait for that. Just in closing remarks, thank you very much again from us from Union Bank and the FinTech Business Group for joining us today. I think what we saw here today was how companies, even if there are various companies that have different core products and have different specific services, they could all help you in transforming your company, whether it's digital transformation or whether it's digitizing your services or your products. So give us a shout out, just reach out to us, and let's see how we can all work together and get out of this pandemic even more prosperous than before. So thank you very much, and until next time.